Wayne, welcome. Thanks, Wayne. Take a seat. So tell us a little bit about your company and what you've been doing, particularly in this area of assessment, because I know you've been doing high-stakes online digital assessments for a number of years in Australia, where you come from. And give us a little bit of information about that.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, we've been working in, lots of different areas with regards to online learning over a number of years, but over the last few years we've been spending a lot of time and a lot of effort in developing technologies that can deliver better ways in which we can assess our students in school environments and in university environments as well. And in particular, some of the areas that we've been looking at are ways in which we can provide high-stakes assessments or standards-based assessments to very large groups of students all at one time. That was sort of one of the really key challenges that we took on probably from about 2009 onwards. So in Australia, there's a standards-based routine that runs for years 3, 5, 7 and 9 in Australia. So all students do some standards testing, and that happens in 1 or 2 day periods. So it's about 1.3 million students who are doing these tests. At the moment, they're all paper-based, but there's a plan to move all of that testing online. And for us, some of the first early projects we've been involved in have started to prove that that's possible. So in New South Wales, for the last 3 years, we've been doing online standards-based assessments in science. And in that particular case, it's just a Year 8 group of students.
Just a Year 8. How many is just a Year 8?
Well, that's about 80,000 students.
Just 80,000?
Just 80,000.
All undertaking an assessment at the same time. Okay.
Well, yeah, in that case, it's just one single day. There is a couple examples where schools just can't simply make that particular day, so they have to come along at a later time. But virtually 95% of the students in the schools all hit the assessment at the same time on that particular day. Now, 5 or 6 years ago, that sort of concept was just impossible to imagine. It's the amount of technology, the amount of computing hardware that you'd need to create or to configure and to be able to set up is just, it's just too difficult for organisations like education departments to be able to manage. And it's too expensive as well. But with cloud server technology, it's really changed the game about how we can build assessments and how we can deliver those assessments to our students. So now, using a cloud server system, we're using the Windows Azure system, we're able to build an assessment and then deliver that assessment to those 80,000 students spread across, I think, around 650 different schools.
How geographically big is that? Just for people here who come from small countries.
Yeah, New South Wales is a pretty big state, so it's certainly, a large part of Western Europe, if you like, in size. But also, really importantly, there are places in New South Wales that are almost connected with 2 pieces of string in terms of their internet connectivity. So it has to be able to be not only a technology that can work in cities where we've got really good internet connections, but in very, very regional centres that the connections aren't quite so good. But the key thing is that we can build technology now. We can create systems that can do that sort of delivery to that number of students all at the one time, and we can do it affordably, and that's probably even more important.
Talk a little bit. So I know one of the earlier speakers spoke about this change that's happening with cost and the ability of it to deliver more. Talk a little bit about the cost.
Yeah, I guess it becomes a little bit technical when you talk about costs, I suppose, but effectively what cloud server technology is about is the fact that you can create or you can configure up an application and you can decide how much server technology you want to use. And there's a minimal element that, if you like, of server technology we call core. So you could think of it a little bit like, the power that might have been in your laptop previously is one core. So that costs you around about 12 cents to use one of those cores for an hour. When you use your application. So you can build your application. You might only use 3 or 4 calls while you're building your application. It doesn't cost very much at all.
But when you deliver it, 80,000 students, all online, that's got to cost a lot.
No, well, you certainly need a lot of calls. So you need about 400 calls when you deliver to 80,000 students.
So how much does that cost for a day? So you said you did it in a day. How much did it
It's
cost?
about $500.
$500.
$500, yeah.
So that's reduced the cost substantially of printing paper, shipping it to schools,
That's right.
taking it back. And
That's right.
what about the marking or the marking of those?
Well, I think that's also where a lot of the real benefits are going to come, especially when we start to look at standards-based testing, because at the moment one of the big problems with standards-based testing in Australia, and I'm sure in many parts of the world, is that when we run paper-based tests, it's not just the cost of delivering the service, it's the cost of marking the service, and it's the timeframes that it takes to be able to mark that service, analyse the results, and then be able to produce the results and send it back to either the teachers, the students, the schools, etc. So all of those costs change dramatically when you move to an online model.
What like? Give us an example. How quickly could you get results back from a statewide exam?
Well, it depends. Of course, it depends on whether you've got humans marking some of the results. If you haven't got humans marking the results can almost be instantaneous. But if you've got humans marking the results, you're talking about weeks rather than extended months. And there's certainly lots of elements like the security, the transport, all of those other elements that really come into play as well. So all of that area is significantly reduced as well.
Super. However, this is from what I understand, this took an existing exam that the students, or a test that the students undertook,
Yeah.
and you took it online.
That's right.
But I think you've also been working on some new forms of assessment. I know we've worked together on the ATC 21S project that Anthony mentioned.
Yeah.
You've been supporting that project, but from the learnings of that, you've also gone off and done something on your own. What's that
true.
about?
That's true. So I think it's worth noting, I think with all of the sorts of assessments that we've worked on and the conversations that we have with teachers, I mean, teachers really want to see engaging assessment. It's incredibly important that assessment moves past this sort of whole concept of just a piece of paper and pen. And so no matter what we're talking about, they're always thinking about ways of making assessments more engaging. So even the science exam is quite engaging. It uses a lot of video, uses a lot of interactivity, a lot of options for students to engage in different ways. But from last year, with working on the ATC 21 project, we were able to really understand and learn a lot about how we were looking at collaborative-based assessment. And one of the things that we learned when we worked on that project was that there is a significant issue around how technology is going to work in different environments. And every school's got a different environment. We've got different types of computers. We've got different types of web browsers. We've got different types of network environments. And that presents certain challenges. And I think those are challenges that we're going to need to meet in different ways. So we started to think about how can we standardise this a little bit, and maybe let's start to experiment with these new devices that are coming online and look at what assessment might look like on new devices. Now, one of the benefits of using device-based assessments is that you start to reduce the amount of variability in the environments that you're delivering the assessment on. That's one good thing. The other thing is there's a new richness in the interfaces that are being built as well. So there's the ability to start to think about how can we build richer environments as well, which is great. And then there's the ability to start to think about, what we've got on our device and what we've got over there on our cloud, how can we start to merge those two technologies together and start to deliver perhaps collaborative environments or environments that provide the ability to translate, connect students who might be using one language with the students who are doing another language. Because when we think about it, some of those skills that some of our earlier speakers were talking about in terms of leadership and in terms of collaboration, that's going to go even further to the point where we're going to have to be delivering to our students the skills that will allow them to work across cultural boundaries as well. So collaboration is going to go even further than just collaboration in a classroom, but collaborating across country, across a number of borders. So that's some of the things that we've been working on.
So I believe this week you've published a new app, a new Windows 8 app.
That's right.
That shows this off.
Yeah.
Do you want to show people?
Yeah, why not?
Can we do that?
What we can do that.
Show us. Yeah. Show us what you've done and how this is changing the way that we might think about assessment.
Okay. Well, we just bring this over into here. Let's see if we can get this up.
Okay.
Now, is that a little bit? That's a little bit not too bright there at the moment. Let's see. If we can
Let's see. There we go.
Okay.
So this is Windows 8 that you've developed this in, which has an app.
We'll get this right.
Yep.
So this is a Windows 8 application, yeah. And basically, at the moment, there's 5 different languages that we can work in. So we can switch between German and Dutch and Korean and Chinese and English, which is probably my natural language to use. We're not on the internet at the moment, so we're just going to demonstrate where the computer is, where I'm working with the computer for the collaborative part of what we do at the moment. So
if I was a student, I would put my name there.
that's right. And it would actually work out, and I don't know whether you notice, it works out, if it can, it will work out where you are.
So in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, that's right. And if you can have some different places, depending on what it understands your network to be in.
Okay.
And so when you pick a particular task, and I'll pick this one here, it'll go out and have a look on the internet and see, we're not online here at the moment, but we'll go out and have a look on the internet to see who else is out there using their computer, wanting to do a task as well.
So you could arrange a time where you have 2 people either in the same classroom, or they could be around the world, you were saying.
That's right. And
they could be speaking different languages.
Exactly.
This is pretty interesting.
They could be using different languages, and you would understand that because you'd see what language that they're using based on...
Oh, so it tells you if I'm going to link up with someone who's speaking Chinese or speaking
That's right.
German
so
or whatever.
So you can make the choice whether you want to go with English or
so you get that
non-English
choice.
speaker. Yeah.
Great. And then if you can't, what's this about?
So we've got also an automated version here where we're basically working against a computer instead of against another person. So if you don't find anybody online, you can still have a go at the tasks and work in a simulated form, if you like. So here I'm basically needing to fill in some of the answers that are on the
So
screen.
I think let me see, you've got a spreadsheet there with a couple of columns, not all the numbers you can provide.
That's right. Basically,
And the computer's talking to you.
Yeah, so we're basically looking at this spreadsheet, and really we need to work together to figure out what the end result is. So I don't know whether we can see there. It's probably a bit hard, but Hal's actually talking to me, telling me a few
Hal
of
has
the
said,
things.
hello, Wayne. Some of the cells look easy to work out, don't they?
Yeah. So and I can talk to Hal. Of course, that's probably not.
So I guess one of the things that's interesting about this is you're not totally being assessed on getting the right answer.
No, well, you are still looking for the right answer. And I just asked Hal to do something there. He's not doing. I think I've got to ask.
We're off talking to Hal.
Yeah.
So, but it's sort of measuring these 2 elements. One is the activity and one is the collaboration.
That's right.
So if you just solved it by yourself.
Yeah, so.
What's happening?
Oh, well, this is out of...
the computer's talking to us.
So, once we've decided once we've answered all the questions here, then the computer is looking to see, if we're working with 2 people, we're looking to see how much collaboration is taking place between the 2 students as well. And we look for particular markers about the collaborative process. So we're looking at saying, are the students talking about the spreadsheet? Are they talking about the cells in the spreadsheet? Do they understand what cells and what values in the spreadsheet need to be changed? So all of those sorts of markers are being analysed by the server in the background to see if in the chat process they're actually collaborating together to solve the problem. Maybe they don't collaborate together all that well but still solves the problem, and then they'll get a different mark based on
So
the level of
it'll
collaboration.
give them a lower rating on collaboration.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
So we haven't quite done a lot here, but you get a bit of a few. And then you can see, well, Hal's done a lot better than I have.
Because I was talking to you, I
busy
know.
talking.
I'll give you an out there. I was talking to you. So the idea is, I think what we're saying is the ATC 21S project is starting to spawn more of thinking around assessment in different ways, rather than just trying to measure that knowledge base or that memory base, trying to look at things like collaboration. That's an example. I think there'll probably be more examples like that.
I think so. I mean, it's really it's a fantastically exciting time to be a technologist at the moment in terms of education. I think this whole concept of how we can use services now to deliver new applications to education is just is just opening up so many doors at the moment. It's such an exciting time to be working in technology.
Learning as a service, I think I heard earlier.
Yeah.
Let's thank
absolutely.
Wayne for that demonstration and information about assessment. You know,